Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another edition of Dragon Ball Super Reviews, in which I'm going to be reviewing Dragon Ball Super Episode 55, and then giving my thoughts as to what happened during it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and just giving you guys an overall picture as to what the episode entailed. Now, before I begin, I'm currently using a different computer setup, so it's not completely optimized as my old one was, and thus there are some issues, that I'm still trying to work out. So until then, I'm not really going to be able to put a lot of editing into these reviews, but I believe that what actually happened and the substance involved in these episodes is more important than any kind of visuals I can begin to show you to begin with. So I'm going to just tell you my thoughts and let it go as it is. Well, a lot of stuff happened on this newest edition of Dragon Ball Super, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's get started. So my general thoughts on this newest edition of Dragon Ball Super essentially boil down to two different things. Number one, I really like this episode, and number two, I don't think this episode belonged really where it is right now, or should have been positioned in a different place in the series. Now, for context as to what I'm talking about right now, basically what happened in this episode Dragon Ball Super is as follows. Beerus brings Goku to his planet, telling him that essentially Zeno, the king of everything, the Omni King, wants him to come and meet with him in his personal palace. Goku and Whis go to Supreme Kai's planet and meet with him, and then go together with him to Zeno's palace. After they get there, they are met by someone known as the Daishinkan, or Great Priest, and Whis explains that this guy is not only completely out of Whis' league in terms of him being significantly more powerful than Whis, but he's actually one of the top 5 battle powers, or most powerful fighters in all of the different universes, or the Omniverse as it was. And basically, once they're there, they go with them all the way to meet the Omni King. And once there, Goku and the Omni King have a conversation, and the Omni King essentially, is saying to Goku that he wants a friend. He wants somebody to play with. And he wants Goku to be that individual who is his friend and who plays with them. But of course, Goku doesn't really have time for this right now, as he has to go to the future so that he could fight Goku Black and save the future of Trunks' timeline. So the Omni King creates a button in which he could summon Goku to him at any point that he desires. Now, funny enough, during the scene, Goku refers to the Omni King as Zen-chan, which is a kind of playful nickname for the Omni King, which, everyone freaks out about. And his guards actually get ready to attack Goku because they believe that he is being very rude. However, the Omni King basically turns around and says, "Shut up, get back to the way you were, and mind your own business," which was a very awesome scene that built up the power of the Omni King and made him look even more of a badass, despite the fact that, in typical Akira Toriyama fashion, he looks very small and unassuming, but naturally, as we saw with Goku, that old Astro Boy kind of sense that, the small, childlike, unintimidating force is always the greatest force in Akira Toriyama's world to be reckoned with. I mean, look at Kaba, for example, or Kid Buu, although Kid Buu wasn't the most powerful form of Buu, but let's not get into that kind of debate once again. Unless you're talking about the anime, oh no. But after this happens, Goku goes back to the Earth, and Trunks, who had been resting during, after his training with Vegeta and Vegeta, all get together in Trunks' time machine, very cramped in there. I don't really know how. I guess that they didn't decide to do the whole thing they did with Goku's spaceship and where they blew it up, from that really small size that Dr. Brief had blown it up to, that big spaceship he went to Namek on with the gravity chamber and everything. I mean, maybe that could have been a little bit helpful. I mean, maybe they could have done what, Bleach did, I guess, during the end of the Wako Mundo arc, where they go in between, time and space, and they just train there for a little while. So it could be another form of training that they could do on their way there, so they could train Trunks up a little bit. Because I really doubt that little training session he had with Vegeta is going to do anything for him. I mean, if he unlocks Super Saiyan Blue now, that's going to be more ridiculous than the transformation Black might have in the next episode, but we'll certainly get to that. And once they actually get to the future, they get out, and of course, Goku and Vegeta are shocked. They're looking around, and they're saying, wow, the destruction here is so rampant. I mean, they've actually never been to the future, which is something else I really liked about this episode, and I'll talk about that in my pros and cons, but they finally get there, and they see the destruction, and Trunks actually finds Mai's beanie, basically, that she was wearing, Beanie Bop, shout out to Josh from Dragon Ball Nation, and Trunks is wondering, wait, I found this was on her head, I left her body here, and she was dead. But now she's gone. And of course, this is all probably going to be setting up what we know is going to happen. Trunks and Mai are going to find each other once again in this happy, loving, get-together scene. And once this is happening, Goku goes to look around, and we see some of those resistance fighters straight out of Terminator 2, or Terminator in general, showing up in the background, and they fire some rockets at Goku. Goku's shocked, oh no, what's going to happen? And that's the end of the episode. Now, okay, I just want to say something real quick. In 2016, when we've been watching Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball the franchise for so long, and we know that Goku and Beerus were like destroying the entire universe with just their punches, are we really concerned that Goku's going to be killed by rocket launchers? I mean, all we have to do is even look back to the Cell games, for example. Like right before that, Cell gets hit by the entire, army's forces, and it does nothing to him. It blows up a mountain, and those are explosions, which means that Z fighters can certainly endure heat. Who knows what Cell's power level was pushed down to at that point, but the fact of the matter is that's not going to work on base Goku, who could kill super perfect Cell after training for 4 months now, probably, with a pinky. We already know how strong Goku is. Gotta build him up even more now with explosions in his face that do nothing, I guess. Kind of like when Superman in Superman Returns gets shot in the eye and the bullet just, compresses on his eyeball because he's invulnerable. Great tension there. So, essentially, maybe Black will be played by Kevin Spacey in the live-action version of this series. But essentially, that's what happened this episode. And I say I like this episode right off the bat. I'm not going to be negative about this episode, except for when it comes to the cons, but every episode has pros and cons, regardless of how much I enjoy it. But what I really liked about this episode was that it expanded upon further the lore of the gods. It expanded upon the level and the hierarchy, because once again, we're still power scaling here. The top 5 fighters with this Daikaishin, this high priest of Zeno, I suppose. Although they said he's one of the top 5 battle powers in all of the universes, so I'm assuming that means he's not the number one. They're not counting Omni King Zeno, probably, because they already said he's not a fighter. He has probably an infinite power level, if we're going to even go there. So it wouldn't even be counted in this case. But it's really interesting that they're already creating an even higher ranking, and Whis is basically saying that he's not even the top 5 most powerful characters. So, I wonder if those Guardian, or those characters that are behind Whis, which are behind Zeno, which are kind of like his Whis, like those royal guards that protect the king of all creation, I suppose. I wonder if they're in the top 5 at all. Maybe not. Maybe he just keeps them around. He doesn't really need guards or attendants except, to do stuff he doesn't feel like doing. I'm assuming if he's actually omnipotent. They haven't really said he's omnipotent yet. Maybe at the end of Dragon Ball Super, throw out a little prediction here or a little kind of joke here about what could happen. Is maybe, at the end, Zeno's going to be like, oh, the entirety of Dragon Ball was a training arc, and I want you to be my master, Goku. So the apprentice finally becomes the master of God himself, and that's the end of Dragon Ball. And Vegeta's, crying in the corner, damn it, Kakarot, even God wants to train with you. Why am I forever alone? Where's Ghost Nappa when I need him? But I really liked all the lore they built up. I like Zeno's palace, for example, too. I like, for example, they have showed all these different worlds and, this different godly realms thus far. We got to see Beerus's realm and his planet. I don't know why they call it a planet. It looks like a giant potted plant in the sky. But it was really cool that we got to see that. And the whole dichotomy of that planet, with the falling away of the path that Goku and Vegeta trained on, with a other dimension below that they'll never be able to return from, apparently, the giant tree and Beerus, Whis using the environment around him to try and explain how strong he wants them to get. stuff like that, like sight gags, as well as sight, references, have been really cool. And this episode really kind of worked as an establishing shot further. It's as if Stanley Kubrick or, Terrence Malick directed the episode or the saga so far, in which we keep getting all this establishment, establishing of characters, establishing of shots, and establishing of the different, surrounding universe. So I really liked that. I liked how Zeno's palace looked. It was in the shape of the kanji for Zeno or Omni, Zen. It was further, it looked like something that I guess Toriyama would draw, and also Shigeru Miyamoto might kind of draw, because he lives on top of a giant mushroom, I think, in a giant, his own name, I guess. I mean, that almost reminds me of, seriously, Zeno. Let's just think about this real quick. You live in a castle or a palace that's your own name. Let's talk about how vain this dude is. But no, I really liked that. And I always like lore. My whole thing, is I love lore, I love world building, and I love foreshadowing and stuff setting up for later. But aside from the stuff where they actually go to the future, which, kind of seems sudden, I guess, but at the same time, I guess it's good that they're moving the plot along. None of this really felt like it should have been in this episode or in this arc to begin with. Again, I talked about how much I really enjoy the world building and how much I really enjoy, all these elements they added. But I don't think it really belongs here right now. I don't think that these characters need to be introduced. I don't think that we need to know that Goku and Zeno are going to be friends now. I don't think we need to know any of this stuff right now, because it's kind of also a distraction away from, the actual arc at hand. And it feels like more setup, like in the beginning of this arc, for the Omni King tournament that's going to be happening, this Omniversal or, Megaversal or whatever you want to call it, tournament that they're going to be collected at in this, next coming arc. I assume it's going to be the next arc. Although I guess they could have one take place in between, because the Buu Saga took place over the course of 3 days. But in this arc, I really don't think that belongs here, because it distracts from the focus and the looming threat of this character who is Goku Black. Now, if they decide to have scenes in which they're building up this Goku Black confrontation even further with Black in the future, with him trying to get this new transformation that we already know we all know he has, especially from that next episode preview, then it would have been alright maybe, but I feel like this episode belonged either at the beginning of this arc, to just set up a little bit of foreshadowing for things to come, or at the end of this arc after they've already defeated the main villain, because it won't be, strangely positioned and it won't be distracting from everything. It almost felt like a Marvel tie-in or something like that, where you're having this own solo story, and they gotta tie in the future movies. They gotta tie in the Avengers, like Iron Man 2, where Nick Fury kept showing up the whole movie, and Agent Coulson, because they gotta tie into the Avengers. They kept talking about the Avengers, even though the villain is supposed to be Whiplash, So I really hope that, they don't keep doing that and distracting from the overall plot, because the overall plot is seemingly getting really interesting. Now, I didn't talk about it before, but another thing I really liked was the fact that we got to see Zamasu and Gawasu go to they go to the Barbarous, that planet with the barbarians, basically, and they're watching their development. And again, like in the last episode, we saw them essentially develop into characters, into these barbarous beings even further, I guess. We actually saw one big member of their race killing all these other ones, and this even came to a head when he came over behind, Gawasu and Zamasu and started threatening them. Now, he actually came at them, and I don't know why they couldn't move out of the way. I'm assuming they can move millions of times the speed of light like everyone else in Dragon Ball these days. And they attacked Zamasu and Gawasu, but Zamasu stopped him at first and flung him away. But once again, he got back up and he was coming towards them. And I don't know why they weren't just getting out of the way, but Gowasu kept telling Zamasu, don't interfere, don't you kill him, basically, don't you do what you're trying to do. And of course, Zamasu, believing that they're not worth keeping alive, believing that they should intervene, didn't listen to him, and cut this guy in half with his power, that power that looked like he was going to use on Goku during their fight. And obviously, Gawasu was pissed off about this because you shouldn't be intervening. This is something, you killed somebody for no reason when you didn't really have to kill him. And he takes away his earring, but he still keeps him on as his apprentice. He's still having this dude who we just saw kill someone in front of his eyes, making him tea. I mean, I guess there's not really anything they could do about it. Like, what's he really going to do? Like, is he going to demote him further? Is he going to make him be the janitor of that Kaioshin realm of Universe 10? Like, no one really knows. But ultimately, I did like that as well. They're building him up. But stuff like that, stuff like Goku and Vegeta and Trunks going to the future and seeing that stuff, I feel like should have encompassed the entire episode. And we should have gotten even more backstory for Black. We should have gotten, some more stuff going on and some more further development in there. And I don't mind an episode or a series taking its time, but I really do want them to actually do something, and stop distracting from the plot. Because that has been one of my concerns the entire time, that they have just continuously padded out episodes and distracted from the plot. It seemed like we had 10 minutes of this episode was people were, Goku, Beerus, Whis talking before they even get to this, the Zeno's palace. So before they even see Zeno. And it's definitely good that they jumped forward to the future when they got back. But at the same time, I mean, the episode I feel like could have flowed better if they had built up to them going to the future. And maybe we got a little bit more trained for Trunks because, again, Trunks probably isn't powerful enough to do anything in his fight against Black. So I don't know why he's even really going to, be around them when all this is going on. It seems like even though he said, I'm going to surpass all of you guys, he didn't really surpass anyone yet. So unless they show us something that happened in between, like maybe, this is a time skip and they went into the chamber for 10 days or whatever in between, I don't see what's going to happen with him. But ultimately, when weighing the pros and the cons, this is an episode I feel like appealed more to me because I like all that stuff. I like all of the world building. But I could definitely see people not liking it because it's not very plot-oriented, plot-focused. And, hey, it probably isn't everyone's cup of tea, to put it lightly. Horrible joke. But let me know your own thoughts down below. I'm going to have my own prediction video coming tomorrow or coming sometime soon so I can get further into that next episode preview. But let me know your own thoughts down below if you liked this episode, if you didn't like it, and what's your reasoning for it. What would you rate this episode out of a 10? I'll wait until the end of the saga or the arc, so to actually keep consistent. And I will let you guys know once it's actually all over. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and as I always say, stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.